Hi, a very, very good afternoon to all our viewers. Welcome to yet another session of WiTalks, which is the Leadership Connect series, specially curated for our viewers and all our mentees. Today, I would be hosting the show. My name is Anirudh Sen, and I'm the Chief Business Officer with WiTace. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Veena Rajappa, who is the Associate Vice President and Delivery Leader for Mindtree in India. So Veena, a very, very warm welcome on behalf of WiTace and on behalf of all the mentees to our show. And just give me a couple of minutes to introduce you.
Sure, thanks, Anirudh.
What a wonderful and great background you have, and I think it would be a shame not to let our viewers be aware of the same. So Veena is a computer science engineering graduate, having graduated from Mysore University, and she started her career with Siemens Communications Software Limited, and she spent about nearly 4 years of her career in Siemens. While at Siemens, she got exposed to absolute cutting-edge technology. Siemens is world famous for their switches, for their automation, for medical engineering, and in fact, as a German engineering giant, one of the most reputed names that you can have. So Veena had the privilege of actually getting exposed on site, both in Munich as well as in Vienna, within her very first year. And today's technologists, if automation and DevOps seems fairly commonplace to you, let me share that those are things that Veena was dabbling with way back in 1995, which is, if my maths is right, well over 25, 26 years ago. Really a long time. So after spending about 4 years with the automation giant, which is Siemens, Veena changed tracks to product engineering and worked with Sasken Technologies for a little over 7 years. There she had the privilege, and this is Veena in her own words, of working with some of the most brilliant minds from IIT and several PhD holders. And Veena calls that an extremely humbling experience. More of that when you speak about your career journey, Veena. But I'm sure it must have been absolutely great to rub shoulders with so many IITians. During this period, she worked on technology that connects our cell phones to the cell towers. So those are more technical stuff. I'm sure Veena is sort of going to elaborate on that as we get progress further. And finally, for the last 15 years, Veena has more than 25 years of experience. Last 15 years, she is with Mindtree, as I mentioned, as an Associate Vice President and Delivery Leader, serving clients not just for product engineering service, I guess taking on from her experience in Sasken, but also handles the retail sector, handles travel and hospitality. So Veena, a very, very warm welcome. And viewers, if you thought that we've come to the end of what Veena brings to the table, no, that's not true. She is very, very passionate about sustainability. She runs her own NGO, which is, I'm sure, quite a thing. She's a mother of two. Oftentimes we forget that that is also something that is a part of the overall responsibilities that she handles, I guess, and she has specific interest in composting and biofuels. So Veena, a very, very warm welcome on behalf of WiTace and on behalf of all our mentees. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anirudh. That was a nice summary of it was nostalgic going through the last 25 years of my career.
Absolutely. So I think, how we're going to structure the session, Veena, is we obviously wanting to know, our viewers would want to know about how you've sort of gone about your career. So maybe you can sort of begin by telling us a little bit, and maybe for the benefit of the viewers and the audience, perhaps you would want to pull up a presentation. And once you are through, by when you sort of walked us through, the several achievements that you've had and the several experiences that you've sort of had over all these years, then we will actually get into questions and answers. So Veena, over to you. You can sort of begin by telling us a little bit about that. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. And this is not a very elaborate or verbose presentation. I thought when I'm talking about my experiences, and if there is anything like tips and tricks that have helped me that I can share with the other women, and we can network on this topic, right? On the topic of can I have it all? I think that's the objective for what we want to discuss today, right? So this is not a heavy duty slide, so it's just to keep me on course. Otherwise, these are some topics that I can just wander off. So this is like that holy grail, right? We get asked, or we ask ourselves, can I have it all, right? And there's a little bit of a subtitle also there. Is it work to live, or live to work, or what is it, right, for all of us? So just hold on to these thoughts. We'll revisit this at the end of what I want to communicate with you today. So let me just give a very high level view of a career journey, how it was for me and how it's typically going to be for most of us, right? At least in the IT industry. So if I classify this as the early career, right, the 5 to 7 years of when you begin, you're an enthusiastic engineer or employee, high on your learning, and there is this urgent need to contribute, be recognized, be on par with the people that you're working, and you admire somebody in your, in your seniors or your manager or somebody outside, and you want to be one of them, right? And mostly you start off typically as an independent contributor and typically responsible for your own work. And therefore, generally, inherently, the confidence is high because you've passed out from Ivy League or some good institute, you've earned your job and you're proud of it. And you've kind of envisioned how your long-term career is going to look like, or you take it for granted that is going to happen, right? That's how pretty much all the girls are starting off. I have so many in my teams, and I like that bubbling energy they bring. And when we hire kids from campus, right, they're all the same, performing on par or even better sometimes, right, than the male counterparts. Then there is this mid-career, which typically can start anywhere from 7 years to 10 years. You have to still be high on learning because it's new stuff. And you will here at this phase get into the first time leading roles, right? And you will be leading from the front. It's not that you'll still be always having somebody to hold your hand. In fact, you will have to pull along a team with you typically, or mentor a few and stuff like that. And then on the personal side, also typically this is the phase where the responsibility is going to be a little higher on the personal front. Typically, that's the time that some of us that choose to get married and move, or there are other responsibilities, right? You get into motherhood, and those things just get started here. And because of that, there is a difference between 1 and 2, right? Sometimes the confidence could get onto crossroads, and you will have what should be your vision? What is the clarity that we are looking for? Or do we even have time for that, right? Those things can sometimes be confusing. If you've somehow gone through that phase and got it, then when you get into senior leadership, here the accountabilities will typically grow. You're into larger programs, larger accountability, designing huge, maybe transformational programs for high-end customers of the company or whomever that you work with. Accountability. I use the word accountability because you will have a larger portfolio typically at this stage. I'm talking about 15 plus to 20 years or more kind of responsibilities. And this is where I have seen generally, right, in my 25 years of plus years of experience, right, with colleagues and my friends and families and whatnot, there is a humongous drop off, right? It really is lonely at the top. So lonely that okay, now I don't feel it anymore, but it is always like that. Recently I was on a leadership training that my organization sent me, and I was one amongst 40. The 39 were men, right? This becomes very common because of what happens in the step 2, and then we don't see many coming and aspiring or sticking on at step 3. Just to pull out some numbers, right? The same thing. Last year, I made a presentation to our board and our CXO team at Mindtree. I took the data of the entire population we have of the Mindtree minds, as we call them. And if you look at these vertical bands, right, the entry level is at the level called C4 or just C, T4 or C, and then it progresses up to C10. The purple lines are the male population, and the population of women is the pink one at the bottom. So you can see that at the entry level, it's fairly okay, 39%, 45%, 38%. And there's a different story going on when you reach the bar C3, C4, C5, right? It's unmistakable steep drop. And then there's no story at all after that. C6 and above, just the overall percentage is 14%. And I don't have a slide, but I also if I take out the people that are supporting us in core IT, it's even less, because we tend to have a higher percentage of women in support functions, right, in the HR or in people shared functions, or staffing and talent acquisition. We have more women there. But if in the core of IT, which is the core of the business of the industry, right, the numbers are even lower. It's as low as 11 to 12%. And this is pretty much the story in we did some studies, and some other companies that were willing to share the data. They are pretty much like this, right? Be it Wipro or Infosys or some of the product companies as well. And overall, we are only at 32, 34%. And the percentage there is also on the higher side, because the overall support group has more women. I mean, nothing wrong with that, but since we are talking about women in IT, and the interest for me was to see why is it that in IT it's becoming so difficult at this stage, especially, and women are tending to just drop off, right? So that was some things we did, and of course, out of that, some actions and how to plan and how to support women to aspire long term was what I was spearheading in Mindtree. So that's going on. So I thought, let me then give you some of the productive steps probably I took consciously or subconsciously, which has kind of helped me at least to have a long journey. And when there were moments of confusion or derailment, right, what were some things that kind of helped me through this journey? One thing is about biases, right? It is there. I will not be doing justice if I said that I've never faced a bias or it is not there. It is definitely there, right? It is going to be there because generally the societies are more patriarchal based. So one thing is to be aware, right? Don't support it, or I'm not saying anything else there, but be aware. First thing is, it is going to be there for some more time till more women like me and you choose to break that. And once you're aware of a problem, you're always better equipped how to work around them. And it doesn't like hit you in the face like sometimes it does if you're not aware of a problem, right? If you know upfront, you're better prepared. And then you always have to believe that you have the power to change this, right? I can give you so many examples where certain opportunities were as a first choice been given to the male counterpart, and then it used to take me by surprise, saying, I think I perform at the same level, or if not better, and why is this going there? Or how did I miss the promotion but somebody else got? These kind of things happen. But you also have to give a benefit of doubt and not always recoil or go into a kind of a shell where it becomes like you're moaning about these things, right? It's always better to look at another dimension, which I found in one of my experiences with one of my team members, right? This was we were walking in the airport, and we had to pick up the luggage, right, in the conveyor belt. Those nice days when we could actually travel. Now we're all locked down here. And this we were two of us, and the male colleague of mine, he I was going to bring that metallic trolley in which you can put your luggage there and take it. This guy comes rushing past me and says, Veena, Veena, don't do it. Let me help you. I thought, like, is it heavy or is it, what's the problem that he's not allowing me to touch that, that handle and take it out? He said, no, you could get that static, that shock you get in these dry countries when the air is very dry, and because of the static, you sometimes when you touch a metal object. So I thought, oh my God, I'm his boss. He reports into me, and this guy is trying to be so overprotective for this small thing, right? So that little incident stuck with me for a lot of times, because whenever I find in situations that I'm not being given an equal opportunity, there is one element that, yes, there is a bias. They feel that probably being a woman, she won't be able to carry that responsibility well. There is also sometimes this thing saying anything difficult, let us protect her. Let us not give her, something that's difficult or that's going to make it hard, or, women tend to be emotional, these kind of things. So it opened my perspective to another side of things, where you don't have to always, be hard about these biases. When they come in, it's always better to get into a dialogue and hold on, right? You can ask them to hold on and give me the opportunity, and I will do my best. And one or two times when you've proved that you can, and then it'll open doors, not just for you, but for the next generation of women that's walking the same path, right? And the other thing that has helped, and I started doing this a few years quite seriously, and I will take a notebook and actually write down, right? It helps, because when you write and when you revisit that, it can change, right? When you set goals for yourself, these goals, when you write it, maybe the first few years in your life, it'll be something. Then it can change after some time. It will evolve, right, based on where we are and what phase of life we are and what experiences we are going through. But have this written, right? When we take so much pains to write objectives in our annual in the appraisals, and for us and for our reportees, why not personal goals, right? And I have put health and fitness as number one, because I think for us women that aspire to go long into a successful career, this has to be on top. When you are with a healthy physique and mind, and you are fit, everything else will follow. You can't put this at the back in the end and start saying, I'll do it after I achieve all that. It never works, right? I'm very serious about this. You can see some of my medals hanging behind me. I don't know if it's visible. I try to I'm into jogging and fitness and cycling and a lot of yoga. And these days, you just have to participate in a run. You'll get one of those nice medals, and it's always inspiring to have them around you, right? And I encourage my team members also to do any pace. The only competition is you yourself. Were you able to do better today than yesterday? That's all it is. It's not about anything complicated. Then what are your relationship goals? Because these are important in life. Your family, your spouse, your children, your in-laws and parents and siblings, the next level friend circles, everyone. You have to keep that is a need. It cannot be compromised. And to what level do you want to take it is something you will have to be clear about it. And you have to have career goals, right? Career goals is important, because we're talking about being in IT long term. And unlike some of the careers where things don't change pretty much, like in the previous generation, when mostly I've seen women in teaching or banking jobs, for them, they don't have to worry too much about something changing, right? Pretty much a few things they learn through the entire thing and it's set. Our life is very different, right? There's a lot of unlearning and relearning. And are you adventurous enough to try that, right? Every day the technology changes. I keep saying that it changes faster than we change our clothes, right? So don't let that overwhelm you. That one of the things I learned. I used to get overwhelmed with so quick with technologies that change. And when you start your career, you typically can master something because you're doing that day in and day out. But in mid-level and senior leadership, you can't be a master of everything, right? There is cloud, there is digital, and there is enough number of things that's coming now, AI and ML, right? So you have to have that ability to pick up the things that are necessary for your role, learn it, and keep moving. Don't Nothing to get hung about or overwhelmed about. This is one of the things that I'll always want to highlight. And learning is a continuous journey that we need in our careers. And of course, you will have to have financial goals. And one of the things that I used to feel at some point is when you pretty much have balanced all of this, there is still something within you that kind of doesn't give you that full joy, right? Because there is, I believe, of late, I'm also into a bit of spirituality, and the difference between being a human being versus just living like that, right, is the last one, right? It's always that the more you give back to society or the ones in need or wherever, right, even at your home, and for the needy, it always comes back in a different way, and the learnings and joy that that can bring is unmatched, right? So that's why I made it a point to put that. And this is an important aspect. This is in the middle of the slide. And I always tell my women, please don't try to be that Durga or somebody with 8 hands, right? Those are not realistic. You have to seek support. And don't try to be that I want to cook the best food, I want to be this, I want to have the best everything. It's okay. You have to learn to delegate, right? For example, being in India or even overseas, you are in a job that's fairly well paid compared to some of the other industries. So, what percentage of your paycheck are you willing to shell out to get help for yourself? Right? This is a question I ask. I see some of the women like they're doing multiple shifts. You're doing household work, you're doing that, you're cooking, you're cleaning, all kinds of things, and they're so tired out. I and and we will look miserable when we come like that to work, right? You have to be well rested, you have to be fresh, you have to uh, come looking like somebody, for example, your own kids or daughters or somebody in the neighborhood looks at you. You should be something that those children next generation will aspire to be, right? If you're all the time tired and overworked and looking so yeah, I don't know the term, that you're always running around and don't have the time to relax and stay cool, you're hardly anybody will the next door neighborhood kid will say, I don't want to be like auntie, right? If you're all the time seen in that haggard manner. So I say seek support, because I'll tell you, I have a cook, I have a maid, and for some time when my children were young, I used to do a lot of R&D to bring in live-in maids that can support me. Right, this is one of the things that we have to do, and it takes time to find somebody honest. And of course, I'm talking at this time when, because of COVID, there are restrictions on these things. But make that work for you, right? Be it from your in-laws or whoever can help you. Please ask for support. There's no shame in that, right? For example, I enjoy cooking, right? I make some and baking especially, but then I keep those for special occasions, on some birthdays or somebody's the weekends or something. I don't want to look like the person who has to make 3 fresh meals every day, morning to evening, and leaving me tired and very limited work to completely bring my mind back to work, that kind of situation. So we need to stay honest, realistic, and be transparent with what you want, right? If you are serious about a career, there's no point keeping that and holding those feelings and what you want to do, what you don't want to do within you, right? I used to do this. I used to be quite bad in the earlier days about expressing that well, right? I would want to have an IT career, I want to do it, but a little shy of asking other people, saying, "So I won't do this. Can we look at somebody else who can do it?" Or can those kind of honest conversations with your spouse and family is important, right? I have seen at times that we try to finish everything and then try to do this, trying to juggle multiple shifts and making it difficult for ourselves. So that's the point about seeking support. And another important thing is this, have fun, right? In this whole regard of balancing and trying to be everything and trying to achieve all the goals, we look at it as if that fun thing is one fine day you're going to achieve success and then you can have fun. That'll never happen, right? Success to me is the journey itself, as much as, okay, achieving the goals, or to whatever extent that can be reached. So every day has to be good. Every day you have to enjoy it. Every moment you have to enjoy. Yes, there are tough days, and there could be really bad days where nothing goes right, right? There are some days are like that, but it shouldn't stop us from having fun, right? And this last one, I added it. This is something I find magical, actually, right? I don't know, somehow we didn't learn this in the younger days so seriously, or whatever reason it's not taken in it. This is not nothing to do with religion, actually. Spirituality is about, you have to build, you have to think about the larger purpose, and you have to zoom out and probably look at what your thoughts and philosophy about life is, right? You could follow some spiritual leaders, or there are enough and more out there, and this builds inner strength, right? This keeps you grounded, and this helps to go deep. For a tree, for example, you keep growing the tree, but if the roots haven't penetrated and gone deep and held strong, a wind or any tsunami can just uproot it very easily. So we don't want that. So this spirituality is something I find gives that inner strength, and the purpose gets more well defined for getting the rest of the things done, right? And it kind of makes it more easier, and the fun element comes in. Try it if you not already into it. So this is one dimension I thought I'll mention. I also wanted to just bring in perspective about what is the big deal about companies and corporates caring about gender diversity, right? Why should they bother? At one point in time, there was so much hype about this, and we had to take goals on saying, yeah, you'll have to also have this, after your 6 objectives, a seventh one saying Mindtree's overall gender diversity should be at this level, can also be taken as an objective, should also be taken, right? So this is a reference that you can maybe look up sometime, which I found as one of the most comprehensive studies and references done on what diversity does in the workplace, right? I don't want to take too much of time, but there is enough and more study and research to show that corporates that have embraced diversity, right, in a serious manner, not like at the just the entry level, but where we see mid management and above having a good mix of it's a good diversity. They have been able to demonstrate increased profitability, and their innovation led revenues is higher than their counterparts that is not so great with diversity, and the overall governance has shown to be much more stronger, and the strength in the governance higher wherever we have women doing the leadership roles, right? There is a strong correlation there. And there's this fourth dimension which I found very interesting, right? They ran a survey of, I don't know, 200 or 250 students that were finishing the university and getting into a corporate world, right? And they were asked a question saying, if you were to join a company, is it important for you to, would you care to join the company if they are good with diversity, meaning there are significant population of women there, especially in mid and senior level positions, or a completely male kind of organization, or you don't really care. It doesn't matter if it's like all women or men and women or whatever. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, the answer was hands down. They were all the millennial quotient, the younger generation absolutely wants to join organization that values diversity, right? So in my mind, it is about they feel safe, and they feel there is more care and compassion, right? If there is this kind of a mixed blend, and it's not just men, there is something there. Maybe inherently the care and compassion is stronger, right? The way women are engineered, that is there, and that brings a lot of value into organizations. So it is to tap into and not miss out on business opportunities is why there is so much noise about wanting to have gender diversity, right? Many times we don't understand this. We women don't understand this, as well as I have tried this, like a teaser, try to question some of the men in senior leadership things. So do you know why? And the answer sometimes I get is, there is this metric, there is the law, there is reservation, there is none of that actually. And nobody has any moral obligation to hire women, really, right? We don't want that. while it could be true, that's not the reason. The real reason is there is very clear business benefits in having diversity in organization, and we have to know that, right? So once you know this, you will not undermine yourself, right? This is important to understand why the hype and why the noise about wanting to hire women, wanting to encourage them. There is all these benefits that companies stand to have. So that's what I had in my talk. So we'll look back to the question, right? Um, so can I have it all? So this question, if I were to ask a male, or if I were to ask, say, in my mind, did Steve Jobs has it all? Did he have it all? Did Elon Musk have it all? No, right? Because nobody's going to typically think of asking such a question to men. Somehow this question is a trick question or a trap question, and it so often gets asked to women. I feel that itself is it's invalid, right? So don't fall for this. Don't worry about it. You define your all and go and get it, right? It's not an all that you want to get validations from others, right? Somebody else need not define what all is, and I don't have to run after that. So you define what is your all, what is your goal, and just go after it. You can get your all and more than that. It's not somebody else's all. And this is a question that unnecessarily, gets asked about in our world of women and working women, and just stresses us out more. So don't worry too much about the question. Just go do your thing, have fun. Don't forget that. And I think the universe is going to be all supportive of us if we truly want something. This is one thing I have always recognized, even in the deepest of trouble and some darkest of, some of the days when things are hard and for many days things didn't, fall in place. But if you really, chase it with all honesty and, passion, something out there in the universe is there to help you and make it happen. I'm telling you from experience. And this thing about work to live or live to work, right? See, work to live, yes, that anybody will do, right? There are these laborers outside my window, right? They have to work to live because they are daily wage laborers. There's this lady, she's pretty much half blind. And in these days, nobody's giving them work, but somehow she's found some work, and in the neighborhood, she's just working there, and she has to fend for herself, right? That's the trouble. So I don't think that is the state for anyone. And even if we do have liabilities and loans and EMIs and all of those things, after some time, those will go away, right? So it has to be for a higher purpose, right? So I will nullify both of this, or I will cancel this, and I would like to say live to serve, right? Everything that you do is actually you're serving, be it your IT solutions and digital transformation programs. It is to serve your clients, right? It is to serve a larger business outcome. And through that, let's not forget that in India, the tax-paying population is barely 1.6%. And within that, if I have to take even a higher end of 30% being women, right, we are hardly barely 0.5% of the population that's paying tax. Is that not a service, right? And if one of the things that um, uh, there used to be a lady, a maid that used to come to give massage to the baby, right? And those days I used to sometimes get very stressed out with the work and, taking care of a very young baby, the second one. And so I was just casually telling, sometimes, I just feel like this is all getting too much. She told me one thing. She said, see, you are gifted. She told this in our local language, right? She said, I'm not educated and I cannot do anything. I can only help women like you, right? And if a woman is working, she will enable an ecosystem of people like us to, come and help you, and then it's that. But if you choose to not do that, if you give up and just stay, then you won't be hiring me, or you won't be hiring a lot of help. And that little thing also transformed my thinking, saying yes, when you have an ability, you have to always work at that level or above, right? Not undercut or go down, right? That is what you have to serve, first of all, yourself and the community. So I would rather prefer to call that as live to serve. So that's pretty much I had from my side from the slides. We can open it up for any questions or discussions from all of you.
Thank you so much, Veena. I think you were extremely candid. So I would like to thank you for your candor and extremely lucid. I was not just listening to you with rapt attention, but I was also frequently making small notes because there were so many interesting things that you spoke of. And rather than, I think we would be short of time because I can't sort of paraphrase everything, although I can. But rather not do that, rather pick up some of those important things and focus on them. So my first question is, you spoke about when you started off your career and you referred to other young girls. Many of them may have passed out of great engineering colleges. Some of them could be Ivy League. They're bubbling with energy. They're obviously capable, at the cutting edge of technology in terms of their theoretical knowledge, at least, looking for recognition. And then you spoke about the first turn, the so-called first career crossroad, where you move from being an individual contributor to being a manager. And then as it often happens for many women, some of them do decide to get married. Still later they do, have children. And then you refer to a particular term that I've noted down. This first time you said you faced a crossroad of confidence, right? You use this phrase, crossroad of confidence. And I'm sure that is true for many women. And, I would also tie that up with something that you mentioned later during, your talk, as well as a question that has come up from the audience, that women actually tend not to ask for help as much as maybe men do. So I would want to hear more or understand more from you on these 2 points. First, about what is this crossroad of confidence and how did you overcome it, and how should women overcome it? And is it true that women don't really reach out and ask for help?
Yeah, that's a great question and great point that you noted, Anirudh. I can recall very clearly what happened was when my son was born in the family, right? I come from a fairly conservative family, which probably it's unbelievable that nobody, very rarely women get to graduate, right? That community was like that. And thanks to my dad and my grandfather, both of them said that if she wants to, she should be given that opportunity, in spite of many of the women folk not being too keen. And that took me by surprise because I was wondering, why is there such a fuss to let me go? And I've got the seat, and why are they not allowing me? So it happened there. But then I didn't think much about it. But when my kid was born, I got a pushback. I just finished my maternity leave, and I was looking for help from mom and a little bit from mom-in-law. But they were very confused because they've never seen it in their life, right? So they were very worried. How is it all going to work? And of course, mom-in-law will not say anything. My mom was very straight. She said, "Quit." Right? She said, "Don't take this. It's a huge responsibility." And so that confused me, right? That and I also, for a few days, I moaned, saying, "How can she not help me?" But I quickly recognized that she doesn't know anything else, right? She has barely seen the world. She's barely educated, and what else can she do? So she was well-meaning in what she was trying to say. So I could quickly, at least not carry that negativity about my mom for too many days. Then I told her one thing. See, you've raised 3 kids. So did my mom-in-law, but I will do it differently. I'm not going to stress you out with giving that responsibility of my children to you. So I'm going to bring in a lady or these, girls in the 18 to 20, 25 bracket who will stay with me and help me. I'm going to try that. At least I will come to know whether it is going to prove to me saying, yes, we cannot, have it all, or we shouldn't aspire. And that worked brilliantly because I did. I had to run around, but I got these women, and thankfully both my children are doing very well. In fact, they are most disciplined, and I'm blessed. And maybe because I'm not like all the time behind them and trying to know what was the 4th chapter of social studies and what is it, I pretty much, they've grown independently. And in fact, it's troublesome for them now that I'm all the time at home, though I don't go poke my nose there. They have not seen me round the clock being at home, or they won't come and ask me for things. In fact, if I'm back to back meetings, somebody will bring me my coffee or lunch, right? So they are quite independent, and I'm proud to have raised them in that way, right? So I want to tell these younger women, your kids are going to be fine. In fact, let the kids be, right? We shouldn't be as intelligent mothers poking our nose and trying to define too much for them, right? That's actually a boon, I would say. So that was that the confusion I had, and it played on the confidence, but it worked out well.
Okay, thank you. So the other thing that I will next jump onto, and I'll not ask you a question because I'm mindful of the time, was you spoke about biases, and you said biases will be there. Be aware of them, and let it not overwhelm you. Yeah,
Hmm.
because I think that's the point that you sort of made. Moving forward, I loved your piece when you spoke about goals. So you spoke about obviously career goals, or the basic goals that all of us have who work in organizations. You spoke about relationship goals, right? Very importantly, towards the end, you spoke about financial goals. And how I correlate that is there was this video not so long back on social media where it was seen that a lot of women who even are in very senior positions like yourself earn a lot of money, but not all of them are fully aware or actually end up managing their money.
Hmm.
And yet you appear to have sort of taken that in your stride. So maybe you want to share for the benefit of our audience, how did you do it differently?
See, that is one topic I maybe today's I can just talk another whole hour about it. See, we are very shy about being open to ask about the raise, or if we know that we are not on par, right? Maybe it's the lack of confidence or just laziness or ignorance. We tend to lose out there, right? There is this thing that if, on an average in the industry, women get paid lesser. So that is one thing we need to be aware that we are not this. Secondly, we have to know what financial goals we want to achieve, right? We just say, okay, this thing is coming in the bank and something's going here, there, but we don't sit and don't do the financial planning. I was like that for pretty much a large part of my time, but luckily somewhere I understood how important it is to manage that, and tied up with a financial advisor. I don't understand everything 100% that he says, but it helps, right? It helps you to stay on course and to plan it. So you have to be on top of your thing. Sometimes, we say let the spouse handle it. It's okay if they are handling, but you need to be also aware. That is important, right? Because even at workplaces, and at least in my roles, I have to manage the finances of my projects, right? I cannot run my projects making a loss. I have a financial target for at what profit margins I have to run my thing and what are my revenue targets. If I don't understand money, right, how can it work? So be it at work or be it your personal thing, you have to be more educated.
So this is a question more for the audience. And so at what kind of stage of your career did you become commerce savvy? Commerce savvy in the sense, not just personal finances, like you said, and I remember when you said when you moved into higher roles, accountability was a term that you used, right?
Yes.
So obviously you were taking accountability for the revenue that you were supposed to deliver. So at what kind of stage did you start off being in sort of control of the commercial side of things?
Yeah, that's a great question, because as long as I was in my first 10 years of careers, I never bothered, right? I mean, I was more into behaving as if technology is everything, and we all think that you have to code and think that you're born to maybe launch the next man on moon, kind of. You're so hung upon that, but then you somehow you realize that yes, it's the business of IT. That's the thing. And luckily in Mindtree, I got more exposure. In fact, in my interview questions, they asked me a lot on those aspects which I failed to answer, right? I was so surprised, saying, why these questions? And then I got curious, right? One has to run a sustainable business, right? So it's not just any technology that comes latest, you can't just jump and take it unless it makes financial sense for us to pick up work in that and be able to deliver, right? Those things from that point onwards. But more recently, maybe the last 7-10 years, it's part of my objectives, and a large part of my variable pay gets attached to it. So then you're more also, along with technology, get into the operations and regularly check if you are doing on course with these business metrics, and you have to report them, right? And you have to, maybe in the beginning you're not on target, but you have to see how you have to shepherd your projects towards the goals the company sets for you. So.
Quickly moving forward to another track, but again an allied track. Somewhere while you were speaking, you spoke about the need of being realistic, transparent, even within the family, and if need be, having honest conversations within the family with your spouse. I think this you spoke in the context of, do I really need to do it all, right? And you said that you were not one person who shied away from using external help and stuff like that, right? So what is your mantra? And then you used another term, learn to delegate.
Yes. Yes, I think that's an important aspect. I mean, there is this, I don't know, you remind me of this movie that I watched recently, the Great Indian Kitchen, right? There is this opportunity that the girl gets to speak to her spouse before getting married. And she doesn't think of asking anything, right? Even the guy doesn't ask anything. But there is such a strong I mean, you have to watch it, and later she's different. She's not meant to do the kind of expectations that family has. So people, it's so dumb. You walk into some things like that and destroy. So these are important, right? Even at that early stage, set that expectations before, and through the course you have to talk it out, right? It's not that everything will be understood, and with us women somehow we expect to be understood, right? And that is very dangerous. Don't assume, right? Be open, talk to it. Maybe it can be overwhelming for the other side, but slowly they will recognize, and for things to work, it is definitely important that we communicate, we over communicate, but not in emotional way, and not in a, don't get angry or anything like that. Just stay calm and talk it through. It always helps, and it always delivers. That's one thing I can say from experience.
The other thing that you spoke about being lonely at the top. You said you attended a conference where amongst 40, delegates, you were the only female. You also spoke about, numbers which are there in Mindtree, where above a certain level, there are only 14%. Having said which, you said it's not probably very different from what it might be in Wipro and Infosys, right? And you said there's a humongous drop. Now, one of the questions which has been asked by the audience is, does one really need to work incessantly and long working hours in order to scale yourself to the top? What are your thoughts around that? Or can one work smart? Can one learn to delegate? How have you done it? That would be more important.
See, in the first half, or first at least 40% of my career, we didn't take laptops home, right? We were working on desktop. So that was a blessing. You finish your work, you log off, and you had that. Now, unfortunately, with all this mobile and this one and work from home, you're not able to travel, everybody knows you're on all the time, right? So you have to make different choices, right? For example, in my team, we set some rules saying no meetings between this and no meetings in that. Of course, I work with US clients, and there was a time when I was handling Japan and China. So you can imagine that. When it became too much, I told my boss, my day starts at 6:30 in the morning, these Japanese guys, and then going to the US. No, now I cannot do that, right? Either take off this side or so then the portfolio was rearranged. So you have to stand up and ask. And it is reasonable, right? Who's asking anybody to be awake 24/7? Secondly, you set the rules, right? I used to find myself sitting late night, 10 p.m., 11 p.m. in some really unproductive meetings, right? And nobody would say anything because they'll say everybody's attending and we are attending. So I'm one of those notorious ladies who will be straight in saying, do we need so many people in this meeting, right? Why are we just there warming our chairs? And if you're not contributing, not talking, or if somebody else can represent, just make it optimized. So I'm always more conscious about people's time, and I know that in this industry, even if 24 hours, 48 hours won't be enough. So you have to make those boundaries. When is your availability, and do that. In fact, I regret one of the things I did in 2000. When was that? I think 17, 18, I did a course in big data and science. It was a diploma course. And I wanted to take part-time work so that I can focus on that. It was a very grueling course with a lot of assignments. And when I spoke to my boss, he was a little doubtful, and he said, it may not work and all that. Then I came back and I said to myself, it may not work. So I literally killed myself trying to do a full-time job and that, right? I somehow finished, but in hindsight, I think that was a stupid thing to do. I didn't need to suffer so much. I'll say, okay, give me part-time. If not, I'll take a sabbatical, right? Take it off. It's okay. In the long thing, it's fine, because at one point in time, I really felt I should just drop it and I won't be able to complete it. Luckily, then I pulled myself and took some extra days and finished it. So those are some calls we have to take. Nobody else is going to come and set those boundaries for us, and we should do it without any regret, right?
Okay. So, I mean, from all accounts, Veena, you've had a super successful career. And yet, maybe I'm sort of provoking you. I'm sure there might have been the odd instances when you were probably less than satisfied, or the things, the sort of roll of the dice did not sort of exactly roll in your favor or in the way that you would have anticipated. And perhaps, it sort of created some, disappointments, maybe the odd frustration. What has been your mechanism to cope with it, and what would be your advice to these young women? How does one overcome, the occasional setbacks?
Yeah. So that's a good point, Anirudh. See, if I say that if we want to hope and pray that everything goes as perfectly as per plan, and we get everything right the first time, that is not at all realistic, right? Even the famous Thomas Alva Edison, right? Edison's bulb invention was a 1,000-step process. It did not happen. Can we say it is 1,000 failures before he made it? Right. Everything was the experience that took it there. So you have to think like that. And my only mantra is 2 words: start over. Right. Start over. It's okay. Right. Only thing is, don't make the same mistake, and that's dumb to do. Make a new one. That's okay. But start over. You are going to have a certain percentage of things which will not go as per plan, especially when you're looking at delegating, and the ecosystem is so complex when you're delivering programs and stuff like that. You're not the only stakeholder, right? There are other entities, third parties, and management, and everything is going to be there. And now the virus is also playing havoc, right? So many team members getting affected directly, or their family members. So your plans are going to go up in the air multiple times, right? So, but it's okay. Come back. If you want to moan, go moan. It's okay to moan, cry your heart lungs out. Come back. Come back, start over. It always, the experience and the learning gives you that additional kinetic energy. I use that word, right? It gives you that push, and you will be able to make that.
Excellent. So here we have one more question from our audience, and today, thankfully, we are at a day and age where organizations like yourselves and several large organizations do a lot. They are socially conscious. They do lots of stuff for people with disabilities. By employing them, because at the end of the day, they are qualified engineers, and why would they not? But what are your thoughts in terms of how do you sort of steer, encourage, careers of women who might have the odd disability, especially if you are lucky enough to work in an organization that supports them? So what are your thoughts? What have you done?
Actually, I do have a lady like that. She's on the wheelchair. She comes. You have to support them, especially Mindtree is big time into diversity, is not just gender diversity, right? All kinds of things. And the whole point is there is a whole different perspective that that comes into play in the whole floor, not just by getting that person. And it's definitely not for that sympathy or any other thing. That's okay, right? They have a different thinking which changes all of our perceptions, and we had to make some special arrangements for her to be able to work there, and her coming in, and which place she can sit and where the wheelchair won't maneuver. And I instantly saw how the rest of the floor connected with her, right? There was somebody getting her water, somebody going with her for coffee, and it was beautiful to have that kind of you don't need any other team bonding exercise to happen. So try that, right? And unfortunately, what I heard was now it's many years since she's been with my team, but previously she said like many managers were not so keen in taking her and giving her challenging work. They would give something that even if it fails, it's okay, kind of a thing. I didn't do that. I said, no, you have the responsibility. Unless there is a problem, we will not take that away. So she was meeting all the deadlines and she was as committed as anybody else. And wherever she needed help because of the physical thing, the team was more than willing to take that up. And it was actually a beautiful thing to have. I mean, if there is an opportunity, yes, one should ask for having different kinds of differently abled people in the team.
Okay, I think we're sort of now coming almost towards the close of our session. I'm mindful of the fact we are 55 minutes into the show, and it's been a really, really engaging experience. Perhaps either the last or the second last question. So, Veena, we've done some, we've got some, how should I say, discrete, feedback about what your clients think of you. And it is extremely heartening to say that they have most wonderful things to say to you. So for one, you are known as an individual who's able to get to the root of the problem very, very quick, right? Second, it is also been said that the speed of your response, right? The agility of the execution, the empathy that you show that you demonstrate to your clients, as well as you're often seen as going the extra mile. So this level of client centricity, I'm sure it could not have come overnight to you. I mean, these are sterling qualities for any professional to have, and you have them. So, I mean, I would, and the audience would be sort of keen to know, how have you sort of built these up? How have you honed these skills over the years?
Yeah, that's a very nice question, very beautiful question. Thanks for asking that, because one of the strong passions that I hold is to be in front of customer, right? I will never take up roles that are back end, nothing wrong with them, but that doesn't excite me, right? I have to hear firsthand, be firsthand to understand what's the business problem they have and what is it that we are coming in to solve. That is number one. And I travel a lot. One thing is I like traveling. And second thing is when you really go there, sit with them in their office, they appreciate that somebody's actually flown in. And I remember one time there was some real crisis going on and I had to be here in Bangalore, but my customer was asking. And at short notice, they sent me a business class. Otherwise, Mindtree, we travel economy, right? And I still have that on my pin-up board, right? I enjoyed that. And once there was a very the turning point was in my younger days, right? I just joined Mindtree, and there was one really difficult customer. I cannot name it because of the confidentiality, and we set up an ODC for them in the place of their choice, which was not my base location, but I had to travel to the other office, and I used to drive and go. And with a 2 year, my daughter was just 2 years. I traveled to that country 4 times that year, and the trust was an issue. First 1 year, it really, they wouldn't trust us for anything, right? If the team members were, seen going to the toilet for more than 10 minutes, they would complain. So that was the level at which that customer worked, right? They had this bias about Indians and how we work and IT in India and all that. But at the end of 1 year, we had a large delegate of them coming to our place, and we had this cake cutting, and we had a bit of cultural, the team did some cultural event, and I organized the whole thing for them. And our important leadership was there. At the end of that day, when we just finished the dinner, this guy tells my boss, saying, "You're really fortunate to have Veena leading delivery here, right? Because we've seen her and her passion for this whole year and how things have turned around." So that it was a beautiful moment, and then on, there's never going back. It defined that for me to understand firsthand. I will not take the story directly from the sales guy. I'll say, no, put me in the call. I don't want Chinese whispers, because they say something, you tell me, and I do something would have lost, right? And like the detail is always important. The devil is in the detail. So how will you get there if you're not right into it? And And that's the whole fun for me, at least, right? That's the adventure I enjoy more than anything else. The client
Wonderful.
centricity.
Absolutely wonderful. Veena, brings me to the absolute final question. You spoke about spirituality, and so therefore my final question is, what has success meant for you? Because you've obviously gone just beyond a successful career. You run an NGO of your own. You're passionate about sustainability. You spoke about spirituality. So what has success meant for you?
Yes, I think in the initial days, this thing of success, we think it is there and then you have to go, right? So that, even for that matter, happiness and success is not a destination, right? Every day you have to experience that. You have to experience, because it is important that each day goes well and each day you are happy for whatever little goals you've set, right? Take some time, couple of minutes before you sleep or when you wake up, saying how you see it or how did it go, right? And this, I was missing it out on a big time, though in theory I knew it, but luckily that dimension, right, that spirituality, I'm fortunate to have my yoga and meditation and spirituality guru. Her name is Sharada Arun, and we are connected even today on online. She does this in the morning, right? The way she explains, right, what is life and how you have to lead, and in difficult situations, how to let go, and then be able to take a completely different view to solve it. There is always a way out. It's never me versus somebody. It's always there is a solution which can bring all of us together and make it happen. That I feel now, if youngsters were more spiritual, it'll be magical, right? So I'm trying to encourage my kids to join. My daughter is trying to do that because it will change the world. I tell you, when I was younger in my teens or in my early 20s, 30s, if I had more spirituality, I think it should be something else. But we have to explore that. And that is only, it can come from you. You can't just come from within, right? And it's a different dimension that one has to explore for themselves, about themselves.
Wonderful. Veena, it's been an absolute pleasure having you speak with our audience, most of whom consist of mentees from various batches. Thank you very, very much for such an engaging session. For me, it was really uplifting to have hosted you today. Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And thanks for the opportunity to talk to all of you.
Sure.
Stay safe.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye now.